Okay, Daniel would like to make a quick point, and I think we have time for one more question.
Very briefly on the gentleman's question about suing on hate speech in the Quran. There's a very interesting book, the Calcutta Quran Petition, involving a suit years ago in India by some Hindus, I believe, against the Quran, alleging essentially what you said. The suit was dismissed on technical grounds having to do with time delay, but I urge you to Google it when you get home.
Okay, it's 1:37. We have 3 minutes for one final question and answer. How about the fellow right here in the front?
Thank you very much. There was a suggestion made that there have been no cases relating, I guess, to radical Islamic statements. And perhaps Mr. Murray might want to comment on this, at the very least look into it. An attempt was made by Monsieur Marc Lebris in Quebec of the website Point of Escrew, who complained to the Canadian Human Rights Commission within the last year or so about a imam, whom I can only describe as rabid, who had an electronic book out that took apart every conceivable species of humanity, gays, lesbians, females, you name it, except, of course, radical Muslims, and complained to the Canadian Human Rights Commission. The Canadian Human Rights Commission, frankly, didn't want to hear about it, and they said that they were not going to look into it further. It became a cause célèbre in the Quebec media. So I just thought perhaps I'd put that to you.
Okay, the question is for Douglas. He will answer it. If one of the Canadian panelists would like to respond, I'll give him that opportunity, and then we're finished.
Could I quickly pick up on that and also link it to something the previous comments as well, because there was actually a Christian pastor in Canada who was, of course, given effectively a lifetime gagging order for saying something I very much disagree with, but what he thought he found in the Bible. Of course that would not happen with a Muslim in the same situation. Of course it wouldn't. And this comes back to just quickly to the point I made before, which is that what you see in the current setup of such anti-democratic institutions as the Canadian tribunals, what you see in these institutions is the definition of what Anacharsis described as a bad law, which is a law that is strong enough to hold the weak, but too weak to detain the strong. You can get the young neo-Nazi, the guy who's gone onto some web forum and hooked up with a member of one of these Canadian tribunals. But I'd like to know why, as well as the case you mentioned, the main Canadian Muslim organisation invited somebody from my country, Yvonne Ridley, to Canada to do a speaking tour a few years ago. She praises Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, the leading head hacker of Iraq. She does this repeatedly. She engages in anti-Semitic defamation repeatedly. Why is it we know with certainty that the Canadian tribunals will not go after her or the group that invited them? For one very good reason, which is one of the primary things of our age, which is that in the multicultural sensitivity melting pot, the thing that trumps everything is Islam. It used to be race, now it is Islam. And if a Muslim can say they are offended, it doesn't matter whether it's true or not. If I say I don't like something in the Quran and they say that they think that's offensive to their religion, I have no defense in truth in the Canadian courts. This is a monstrosity, and it has to be pushed back against.
Okay, would somebody like to defend the multicultural sensitivity melting pot?
You want to speak before? What's that?
Okay, Marvin, and then we're done.
I'll be frank, I don't know particularly about the last example that you've mentioned, but Canadian laws have been used, for example, to keep some racist Islamists out of Canada. There was even a black Muslim, an anti-Semitic black Muslim from the States who was, in the last 2 or 3 years, kept out of Canada because of fear that he was a hate propagandist. But the answer may well be the other side, which is that these people should be brought before the law if they're promoting hatred in Canada, because it is a pressing concern, because of the Islamist calls for genocide, for murder of Jews, things like that. That kind of thing is precisely what these laws should be using, and to the extent that they're not being used that way, then it's wrong. And you're right, if there is a lack of political will, that's something that has to change. But that doesn't mean, just as the libel laws have been misused and have to be reformed, similarly, hate laws which have been effective in the past can be and should be made to be effective to deal with this kind of hatred as well.
Okay, Erwin has asked me for 30 seconds. Since he was under his time, I'm going to allow it, but since we are over even our postponed time, I'm actually going to be running the clock this time. Erwin.
Yeah, I just want to bring it back to the initial thematic reference of the day, and even my own remarks. I would agree with Doug Murray that, you know, we shouldn't be preoccupied, let's say, with chasing neo-Nazis who may not be dangerous while ignoring the real dangers. And I want to take this back in terms of Iran, and that is Ahmadinejad's Iran has been both aiding and abetting and exploiting a culture of lawfare, and doing so in a culture of impunity. And we have not been paying attention to that, and the time has come to take them to account.
On that cheery note, thank you very much for coming. And the next panel is to begin at 1:50. I'd like to urge the panelists in the next panel to move in this direction so that we can keep trains running on time here.